In this video, I want to talk about how much money I spent in 2021 for any repairs and maintenance for this E92 M3. So for anyone that's new here, this is my 2013 E92 M3. Currently has just over 35,000 miles, and I love every second of driving it. It is such a fun car, and if you have one, you know what I'm talking about. If you want one, you probably know what I'm talking about as well. So just as a high level of what I've had to do in 2021, I did the rod bearings, I did the throttle actuators, I did have an issue with the alternator, but I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video, give some more details on that. And then I also had to replace 2 tires, and then lastly I think was just the battery that I had to replace. So not a ton, but they were costly services, and so we can jump right into what that kind of looks like right now. So starting with number 1 is the rod bearings. So like I said, my car only has 35,000 miles so far. I did the rod bearings as preventative maintenance. That's why they were done so early at only 31,000 miles. And the reason I chose to do this is just because I do enjoy the car. If you guys have been watching this channel for a while, I do tend to enjoy this car. So I drive it pretty hard, and I do take care of it, obviously. But again, I do push the car. So I just wanted to get it done and not really have to worry about it later on in the future. So I ended up doing them early. So that cost me $2,300 starting in January. So off to a good start. Next up was April. So in April, I unfortunately got a flat tire on the car, and I thankfully have a subscription service, so let's count that in the total. So subscription is about $130. Since my car is quite low in the front, I tipped the driver about $50 when we completed the tow, just to show a little bit of appreciation for their patience and getting my car loaded up safely, and for not causing any damage to the car, obviously. So just a little token of my appreciation for their patience and for caring enough to deal with putting wood under the car to get it up onto the tow bed. So anyways, that's $180 for that. And then I also had to get 2 new tires, so that put me at about $700 for the tires. So all in all, just shy of $1,000 for the tow, the tip, and the 2 tires. Next up on the list of expenses came in June, which was just a simple oil change. So $250 for the oil change. I did do it a little bit earlier than normal, so I think it had about like 2,000 miles on the oil. The reason I did it a little bit earlier was because it was the first oil change after we did the bearings back in January, so I just wanted some fresh oil back in there before I made my trip back up to Northern California. So that rounds off June, $250. Moving on to the next incident, which was July. So I drove my car back up to Northern California, like I said, and literally right as I'm getting into Northern California, probably about 20 minutes from home, my throttle actuators went out on me. And they went out at only 34,000 miles, so quite early. I was not expecting that to happen, and that's actually pretty early for throttle actuators to fail. So and also the first thing that actually went wrong with my car, if you exclude obviously preventative maintenance. So that was the first time I ever had something truly break on the car, an actual incident that I wasn't expecting to spend money. So throttle actuators, that cost me $1,200 in July to fix that. And while we were at it, we also changed out the battery, so that was another $300 or so. I was so lucky to have Mike from Precision Dynamics come up to the bay and actually fix my throttle actuators and swap out my battery. So the next expense we had came in August. So this was shortly after we got the throttle actuators done. This was just a weird coincidence. All in all, I thought that I got a bad throttle actuator since the symptoms felt exactly like it, but it actually turned out to be an issue related to the alternator. So it wasn't actually the alternator, and I'll touch on this right now. And the reason I say it wasn't actually the alternator that failed is because the true cause of the issue was a pin that had backed out from the DME that caused the alternator to not function. And so the way that we found this out was we all thought it was the alternator, swapped in 2 alternators. Both of them still did not give a charge. So after the second one, we knew there was something else wrong. Did some diagnosis and some extra digging, and they found a pin that had backed up from the DME pop that back in, boom, alternator's working. So that makes me think that, you know, whatever alternator I had in there before might have still been good, but it is what it is. We didn't know. They still did the work. So that whole fiasco cost me another $1,200. And because the car had issues with the alternator, it was undrivable, so I had to get it towed yet again, which includes a quote-unquote free tow with my subscription. But again, because of the trouble, I tipped the tow truck driver another $50. Completely separate driver, by the way. But yeah, another $50 added to the total. So all in all, that was another $1,250 spent in August. All right, so those were all of the expenses that I incurred in 2021. There weren't that many, but unfortunately, each one that happened, it was pretty costly. So all in all, that brings us to a total of $6,180 spent in 2021 on maintenance and repairs for the E92 M3. So now knowing that I spent over $6,000 to maintain and repair the E92 M3, let's also take a look at how much I actually drove the car in 2021. So I started out the year at about 30,500 miles, ended the year at 35,500 and some change. So for simplicity, I drove 5,000 miles in 2021. So if you break that down, my cost per mile to drive this car in 2021 was just shy of $1.25 per mile. So that's a pretty good amount of money just to drive the car and enjoy it. So needless to say, it was an expensive year, and I do want to pause here and, you know, kind of dig a little bit deeper into this and not scare you guys off. This is not a typical year. You know, I did the rod bearings, which usually is a one and done type of thing. You don't really have to change the rod bearings after you do it once, assuming you replace them with, you know, extra clearance bearings. Don't really want to get into all the brands and stuff. It's really political with this car. So, you know, do your own research, pick whatever works for you. I do sell extra clearance bearings on my website. But if you guys want to dive deeper into the whole rod bearing thing, I made a video about it, link in the description, and I'm going to move on. Next up, throttle actuators. They should not go out this early. I guess I was just unlucky. They went out at 34,000 miles. They typically tend to go out on this platform between 50 to 70,000 miles. So that was a surprise to me. The other big surprise to me was the whole alternator pin fiasco. That's not something that I've ever heard of happening. So again, another surprise. So both the throttle actuators and the alternator surprise, those alone accounted for, you know, nearly half of the expenses that I that I incurred with this car in 2021. So almost half of that was pure surprise to me. And then in addition, you know, I obviously need to change tires eventually, but having that flat tire just kind of expedited the process. So I guess you could say that's kind of a surprise to me as well, that additional, you know, $750 to change the tire earlier. But don't really want to count that since, you know, I have to do it eventually anyways. I just decided to do a little bit earlier since I got that flat tire. Anyways, with that all being said, regardless of whether it's a surprise or not, I did end up spending $6,000 to drive and maintain and repair this car in 2021. So, you know, comparing that to the previous year, in 2020, I only had to do a simple oil change, and I did also get 2 pairs of tires as well. So the oil change is, you know, $250. 2 pairs of tires is about $700. So all in all, I spent just shy of $1,000 in 2020 to drive and enjoy this car. In 2020, I probably put about 4,000 miles or so on the car. So if you break that down, my cost per mile to drive this car in 2020 was a mere 25 cents a mile. So if you compare that to what I just unloaded on you guys in 2021, where I had to pay $1.25 per mile, I mean, that's a huge difference from 2020 to 2021, my costs. Unfortunately, that $1.25 cost per mile on repairs and maintenance for 2021 excludes gas. So if you really factor everything, you know, it is more expensive what I did spend on this car. But, you know, this video is purely about maintenance and repairs, not about, you know, spending money on gas to drive the car. I can do another video on that later. Let me know if you guys want to see, you know, what my gas consumption is, especially running full E85 on this car. So with the amount of money I spent in 2021 to repair and maintain this car, I'm not trying to scare any of you, rather I just want you guys to be prepared. As you can see, 2021 was an expensive year for me to maintain this car. If you compare it to 2020, a more realistic year, it's not as bad, not nearly as bad. So my point in making this video is, you know, anything can happen, and I'm not trying to scare you guys, but I do, you know, just want to make sure that people are prepared when you're either getting this car, and it really applies to any cars, whether it be this, a 335, some kind of Dodge you're getting, a Porsche, anything. You know, do your research and understand what typically tends to go wrong with that platform, and also just be prepared for random stuff to happen, like my alternator fiasco. Such a weird thing, and didn't expect it to happen, but it did, and I still had to pay for it. Any common issues with whatever car you're looking at, you know, you're able to plan ahead and figure out when you expect to incur those expenses, but you don't know when surprises are going to happen. You don't know when you're going to get a flat tire. You don't know if you're going to have issues with your valve gaskets, if they're going to come earlier. You don't know if your throttle actuators are going to go out in half the amount of time that they typically do for other cars like mine did. So a lot of factors that play into, you know, the maintenance of cars, how long stuff is going to last, when you expect to incur expenses, you know, how the previous owner drove the car. If you don't even have one of these cars yet, you know, previous care and ownership plays a huge role. So, you know, there's a lot of factors, and more than anything, just be prepared for any surprises to happen, and definitely be prepared to do preventative maintenance so that you can get stuff out of the way before they happen and jump on you as a surprise. So with all that being said, I still love this car. I'm planning to drive it as long as I can. No, I'm not selling it. I have a lot more miles to go in this thing, and I'm really excited to, you know, do some longer road trips with this, do some more meets, meet more of you guys, and just have a good time all in all with the car community, with other people. It's an awesome place to be. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Hopefully you guys learned something or could take something away from this video, whether it be for specific to the E9X platform or, you know, to another car. A lot of these things really can go cross-platform. Really the main purpose of this video is just to be prepared. You know, you never know when stuff is going to happen. So I don't really want to discourage anyone from either getting this car or getting a different car. Really, I just want you guys to be cognizant of what possibly could happen so that you guys are better prepared when something does happen and it's a surprise, when something breaks. Obviously, everyone's situation is different. Just want to make sure that, you know, you guys don't sign yourself up for something you guys are not ready for or not prepared for financially. You know, this car, as well as many other cars, they're expensive to maintain, especially if you want to do it right. You know, you don't want to skimp out on maintenance. The right time will come. Just be patient and enjoy it when you guys do get this car or get your dream car. So that pretty much wraps up everything I have to say for my costs incurred in 2021. How much money I spent was a lot of money, and I hope 2022 will be a little bit cheaper, because that was not fun, but I know it will be. I did a lot of the big maintenance, so shouldn't have too many more issues with the car. Obviously, you know, there may be some small stuff here and there, but looking forward to all else that 2022 is going to bring. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Looking to host another meet soon, wet number 02. If you guys recognize this parking lot from the first meet, number 1, you guys know how crazy that was. So if you guys have not seen that video, link in the description. That meet was crazy. We got to do another one. Looking forward to the second one, and I look forward to seeing you guys either there, or if you can't make it, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.